What's going on, guys, and thanks again for being here. Today I have a brand new release from Godox. This is the Godox GM6 Pro, but looking on YouTube, all I can find is the GM6S, but no Pro. So I guess my video is going to be the first video on YouTube as of the time of the recording of this video was made. So I'm going to tell you up front everything that you're going to be watching here. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to demonstrate every single thing as usual in depth with everything that I review here, what this monitor can do, and a bunch of other things. So try not to skip anything because, you know, every second of this video is going to be information for you. I promise you that. So if you're actually interested in buying this monitor, that's going to be worth a while watching this content here. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. I actually received this monitor today and the video is being recorded the same day. First of all, I spent hours fumbling with this monitor, everything this thing can do, right? And then I record the video. But the excitement about that is because I just received the monitor, so I'm super pumped up and hyped. That's why I like to record this thing immediately. Whatever product I review here, I try to record as fast as possible. Because if you leave this review like, a week later, I'm gonna be like, oh man, I gotta review this thing now. It's not the same thing. Same thing when I shoot a commercial, I'm editing the same day. That's how I work. I work fast, I like to get stuff done. When I remove the monitor, don't mind a little bit of a mess here because I'm trying to keep this monitor slightly tilted so you don't get reflections from the softbox and the grid, and also to make sure this thing is dead center on frame. And a quick disclaimer, this monitor was sent to me from Instro. It's a company that's a Godox authorized reseller, and I don't get paid to say anything, and I get to keep the monitor. All my words and opinions, they are my own. This video is completely unbiased. I have a full-time business to run, and I'm supposed to be editing those videos to deliver to my clients, meeting all the deadlines, but I'm also a YouTuber. As of 2025, however, I decided to charge a fee for my time to sit down here, talk about the monitor, edit, B-roll, all that stuff. This is actually very time consuming, and this is the reason why I charge that fee. I have reviewed the Godox GM55, I think 3 years ago, and this GM series monitors, they apparently don't come with any sort of box, case, or bag. And you either have to actually put this monitor in a way that fits in your bag, but I happen to have a case that fits this monitor perfectly, and since it comes with this little foam inside the box there, I'm going to utilize this. So this is the case. Unfortunately, it's discontinued from Amazon. You can't purchase this here, but I'm going to be measuring this case inside and the height so you can actually buy the right case. So you should search for EVA case on Amazon. So this will come with this type of case here that's like, semi-soft, semi-hard. So what you want is a case that measures about 8 inches internally by 6 inches by 1.5 inches from the bottom of this case to here. So the hood is stored right here. And over here I have my little tools in this plastic Ziploc bag to prevent this thing from loosely scratching this monitor. And here I have the cold shoe mount in an angle, so it stays here, and the cables are here. I don't need the HDMI mini, so I didn't include it here. And the monitor should be facing down again so you don't scratch it when you close the case. So what is the first thing that I look when I unpack a monitor? And the Godox is actually focusing on very important things here regarding, for example, the number one, color accuracy. It looks exactly what I'm seeing on the rear display on my Canon R3 and R1. And also this monitor that I'm actually filming here. So it's the same exact thing that I see here: brightness, contrast, saturation, colors. This monitor, like every other monitor, appears to be slightly on the green side or on the magenta side, but I'm talking about 5%. It's actually very accurate. Another thing is the brightness. This monitor features a 2000 nit display, which is excellent for outdoors. I don't even think you might need the hood or not, but it comes with the hood, of course. But I try not to use the hood if I don't have to. So here's the monitor outside. As you can see, plenty of brightness. It's got the hood on. And now without the hood, not a problem. So here's the backlight set to 100%, right? Even at 50%, you can still see everything. Then going back to 100. Number 3, very important. If you're shooting 4K 60p, yes, this monitor is going to support. There are many monitors, especially in this price range. Most monitors they support UHD, which is like almost 4K and still 30 frames a second. This monitor is going to be supporting whatever you throw at it. And of course, all the tools here, exposure, zebra, and everything. So let's dive into the monitor and see what it's got. So here's what the box looks like inside. And everything comes with this little plastic. It also comes with the compartment here for the cables. Again, this is the kit number 2. The kit number 1 does not come with HDMI cables, but comes with everything else that I'm going to show you here. So in the box with the kit number 2 is going to come with the monitor, the hood, 3 HDMI cables, which is the full-size HDMI, the HDMI mini and HDMI micro. It also comes with this very nicely built 100% aluminum cold shoe mount, and also comes with this little tool here to pry the hood off the monitor. You don't need to do that. You can simply use your finger. I'm going to show you that later. And this little tool here is to tighten the screws here. And of course it comes with a manual that nobody reads. This is why I'm here doing the video for you. Now the shoe mount that comes with this GM series from Godox is, in my opinion, one of the best that I've seen. It's fully made of aluminum and it comes very nicely tightened by factory. So you can actually tighten on top and on the side here, because this thing features 2 axes. Not only you can actually tilt up and down, you can also rotate to the sides, which is great. You can simply tilt it and it feels great. The amount of resistance here is just about enough. So when you shake the camera, as you can see, it did not move. So it stays there. So very nice. And again, I love the fact that you can also turn left and right, just in case your client is here. All right, check it out. Oh, good. Okay, good. Now you start filming and then go back to your face here, right? Now this particular shoe mount here, when you actually slide this in here, there is no way this thing is going to slide it off here. So it doesn't require any over tightening. So once you tighten just a little bit of a turn, and it's not going anywhere. So there's no need to over tighten this here. The display is rather glossy, but I prefer that way because it gives you a nicer, bolder colors, and the blacks, they look right instead of a matte monitor that always looks a little bit washed out. So I prefer the glossy, and most monitors they buy, the finish is glossy. As you can see, it is spring-loaded the moment that you open, and to collapse, just do that and close it down, right? So to mount this monitor, make sure you align this flush. This tabs down and this tabs down right here. So at an angle, you align it. You can actually tilt it right here to make sure this is actually all the way in it, and then you simply press it in and it's done. And then you can actually open the monitor from here. Very nice. Now to detach this without that thing, which I much rather do that, so make sure your fingers are touching the actual display here. So I'm going to slide my finger around this area. There's a tab here and a tab there. You simply go this way. With this thumb holding the body, you just hold it and then you press upwards from this hand, and then there you go. Look how easy that is. See that? It's out. No need for this. This monitor is 5.5 inches, so it only requires one Sony NPF battery. I recommend using a Sony NPF 970 because it's a larger battery, and yes, I use the real stuff, Sony. Don't forget to press this little button here so you don't actually damage this little delicate plastic thing right here, right? So don't force it out, press this button first and then you eject the battery out of here. Just in case if your monitor is not displaying the battery gauge, simply go to the menu here, click on System, and then battery tip should be on. When it's off, this disappears. Who wouldn't want this here, right? So set it on and there it is. And here are the heat sinks that this has. There are no fans here, so it's a silent monitor. And this can get pretty warm, but doesn't get hot. Even if you crank it up to the 2000, it's gonna feel almost hot, but not completely ridiculous. So I'm gonna show you guys the actual body of this monitor, and I'm reviewing again the GM6S Pro, and I wish I had both to compare the regular GM6S, but to what I've seen on YouTube, this monitor is made of plastic, but not this one here. This is the Pro version, and it is made of metal, everything from top to bottom, left to right. So with a monitor of this bright being 2000 nits, either it's gotta have a fan or some heat coming out of here. So I would change for the heat any time of the day. You can mount this monitor horizontally or vertically. There are 3 mounting holes here. As you can see on the top, it features a 1/4-20 with the little holes here so the monitor does not twist when you actually install the little monitor holder. There's another one on the side, on the right side, and also on the back of the monitor, which is probably where you're going to be using the most. So there are 3 ways to mount this monitor with the 1/4-20 thread. On the left side of the monitor, there are 2 HDMI ports, one HDMI out, the other one HDMI in. There's a headphone jack, which is pretty decent, the volume, and also a camera remote. This cable is sold separately because everybody has different cameras, so Godox can't include 3 or 4 types of remote here, right? But I try to find a USB-C because I've shoot with the Canon R1 and the Canon R3. I don't see any USB-C, just the regular USB for some reason. So what this remote does is to control the camera by tapping the touchscreen monitor, like to record, to change the ISO, shutter speed. It might be useful to you. And the camera is going to be right under the monitor in most cases, so I don't need this remote. And maybe that's why they don't include it. At the bottom there are two DC ports. One is the DC out, which can power your camera. For example, if you have like a dummy battery, anything up to 7.8 volts, 3 amps, and it's 2.1 millimeters. The other one is a DC from 7 volts all the way to 24 volts. But keep in mind that this port measures 2.5 millimeters, so you need a thicker DC cable in order to be plugged in here. And here's an SD card that does two things. Firmware upgrade, you have to go in your computer, download the bin file, and then go to the settings here, the system, and then upgrade, and there you go. And also this is where you actually store, load, and export your LUTs. So you can actually import directly into the monitor using the SD card here. I don't use LUTs on these monitors, but you can do that if you want to. And on the right side, of course, yes, it has a USB-C power delivery. The other monitors that I have that cost twice as much as what this cost, the USB-C is only for firmware updates. So this one here, you can fully power the monitor. So I'm using my power supply, has USB-C power delivery, which is great. And again, another mounting option. And here's the power button. I'm sure this is something they probably want to see. Right now I'm using the detach, using a V-mount battery to the DC in, which is about 16.8 volts. This port can accept voltages from 7 volts all the way to 24 volts. So powering on the monitor. Don't worry, you're not going to fry anything. And that's on. And here's the menu, DC input 7 to 24 volts, so don't worry about it. One more thing that I want to do for you, the DC jack out. Let's see if that's actually safe for you before you connect your camera or any delicate things here, right? So I have the DC plug connected and I'm using my multimeter. And let's see what happens. Is I'm putting 7.74 volts and it stays continuous like that. The numbers don't change. So it is actually very safe, so I approve of this here. So let's dive into the menu. So anywhere on the screen you double tap and then the menu comes in. And then first thing you're gonna see is the focus assist. Right now it's currently set to red. By the way, you can actually toggle on and off using this button or this button here at the bottom. And you can actually go from red, green, blue to yellow. And these are the thickness of the lines that you see here. The minimum setting I recommend when you shoot wide, because if you use the maximum here, it's going to be too thick. It kind of bothers me a lot because it's way too thick. When you actually zoom in, that's when you actually use the thicker lines. Because when you zoom in, somehow the focus assist, the lines get super thin. Next will be the zebra. Please allow me to go a little bit lengthy of the zebra here because that's probably going to help you out a lot. A lot of people use the false colors and I also use that too as well. But I rely heavily on the zebra because it is a lot simpler. Plus you get to see the real colors that you're filming. So the false colors, you have to memorize all those colors. Blue, for example, from being the darkest and everything. So with the zebra, this is the best way for you to set up completely accurate your zebra settings. The first thing you have to do is to get yourself a nice big monitor so you can see what's going on. And then you start changing your ISO, aperture, whatever to make the image brighter, right? As soon as you see with an accurate monitor that you start to kind of go overexpose, stop. That's your threshold for this particular setting here. And some cameras, somehow they have a different requirement in RRE. For example, the Canon R3 is set to 70 RRE as the most accurate. And this is what I have set it to it right now, 70 RRE. So in order for you not to accidentally change your settings here, so go back to the 70 RRE, there are these tiny little arrows here you can carefully press outside these boxes so you don't change nothing, right? So it starts from 50 RRE all the way to 105 RE. 105 RE is not going to change at all. It's not going to have any effect. The lower you go, the more pronounced the zebra is, and again, if you set this inaccurately, it's not going to work well. Once you have that set, and then you set the zebras on your camera first, and then set the RE that you want, and then you come back here and set the RE on the actual monitor. Okay, I'm done with the zebra. Hope that helped. Next we have the waveform. And make sure you toggle on so you can see what's going on, and there are 5 of them. So if you select here, nothing will show until you quit the menu. They should show here. This is something I don't like, but anyway, so the Y looks like this here. The next one is the YUV, which looks like this. Then you have the RGB, which is the RGB parade. Next is the Y histogram that looks like this, the typical thing that you find in a camera. And lastly, you have all waveforms except the RGB parade. They should put the thing right here. There's a space for, I don't know why this is not here. Maybe another firmware upgrade, but this is what it looks like here. And of course the screen is minimized. And again, all these functions can be customized to 5 F keys located on the top of the monitor. Next one is the LUT. You use the SD card to load the LUT, so you can actually manage. You see there's an import button and a delete button. So you can actually delete a LUT from the SD card, or you can actually import any LUT inside the monitor, and then you can actually eject the SD card, so the LUTs will be stored inside the unit. How to load? You press the LUT load, and then if there's something on your SD card, it's going to pop up here. I don't actually use LUTs, but this is what you have to do if you do use that. And then the compared is like on and off. Now next will be the assist. If you're shooting anamorphic, you have the D squeeze little button here. 4:3, 69, auto, and all these things here. Next one is your crosshair, which is this little cross here that you can actually change from white to black, blue, red, yellow. The next one is the safe market. If you need it, it's here, from 80% all the way to 95%. Now the next one is the markup method. This to me is extremely important because I shoot a lot of content in 2.35.1 aspect ratio, and this is when I'm going to find out if I'm going to be pissed off with this monitor or not. I love this monitor. You know why? Because you can actually have the outside of the image here, as you can see, which I hate, so I have to rely on this little square line here. You can actually reduce the transparency to complete darkness, to complete black. So when you are actually filming here, you have nothing outside to confuse you. So whatever you use here, that's what you're going to get. That's beautiful. I was so afraid this monitor didn't have, because a lot of other monitors, they have the transparency always set to 0, which you can see everything here. I hate that. Black is the way to go. So we have 13.9, 4.3, 15.1, 185.1, 2.1, 2.35.1, which is the typical native widescreen that you watch on a Blu-ray or in a movie theater. This is what they shoot at. And 239.1, 2.4.1, 916 for, I think, vertical. Yes, if you guys want to shoot vertical, check this out. What else can you ask for? And then 4x5, which is a square. I'm going to set it back to 2.35.1. Then let's go to the basics. Now the audio meter, you toggle it on, and then you see right here, to turn it off, you simply go here and turn it off. Gone. And then false color. Again, you can customize to all these F keys here. And then you have the mode 1, mode 2, and mode 3. I prefer mode 2. Then monochrome, you can choose completely black and white or all red, green, or blue. Pixel to pixel, if you're shooting in 4K, for example, it's gonna zoom into the real pixels, and then you have to kind of, zoom around here. This monitor is native high definition. It's not 4K native, but again, it accepts 4K full size input 60 frames per second. So when you shoot 4K, the pixel to pixel is gonna look like this here. When you're shooting in UHD, it's probably gonna look like this, and HD is going to look like normal. Next we have the display, which is the color space. If you want to increase the gamma or to make it less contrasty, you can actually press the HLG, which was going to look like this here. But I found that the Rec 709 is always better, and you can also have the original, which completely throws your balance off scale here. So use Rec 709 like most people will. Then you have the brightness. I know that little 1% might mean nothing, but I see a little bit of a difference here. I just want a little bit less contrast. I'm talking about 2%. So I let it set to 51%. On a contrast, I have it set to 45% because I don't want to crush the picture a lot. It looks just like I see on my other monitors right there. So the level of contrast to me is more pleasant, set to 45, but it comes default to 50%. It depends on the camera, it depends on your taste. So next will be the saturation. Don't touch that, leave it at 50%. Sharpness. It goes all the way from 0% to 100. This is actually another way to use focus peaking or something, right? In case you don't want to use the other one. Now the sharpness at 0%, it still looks sharp, but I can see my face slightly de-sharpened, just a tad. I found that as little as 4%, that will be your threshold. That's when your face appears to be perfectly sharp, not over sharpening. 5% is start to over sharpen slightly. So try first at 4%. I think you're gonna leave it like that. And then you actually have the factory reset, and I'm going to hit cancel because I don't wanna go through this whole thing again. And then you have the system, which is the user setting. So user 2, for example, is gonna change completely what I did here, as you can see here. Everything is super bright. So I'm gonna go back to user 1, and then it has everything that I preset here before. Then you have the language. The first thing that you're going to see on the display when you just purchase a monitor is the language. Make sure you click English, and if you click on Chinese, don't worry, it will be the first thing on top, which is English. Even if it is in Chinese, you click the last button here and access the second button, which is language, and then you set it to the English, which is the first letter they're gonna see on top. The battery tip is self-explanatory. You're gonna see a little battery icon when you actually have a battery installed. I'm currently running on the USB-C, that's why I don't see anything here. Always leave this on. It's always nice to see your battery status, right? And then the volume, this is for the headphones. I always have it cranked up to 100 because I like loud, and this is not so loud, but loud enough. You're not going to hear a whole lot in these headphones when you're actually in the middle of a wedding reception with the DJ cranking up the music. You can hear a little bit, but not a whole lot. But when you're on a quiet set or in a nightclub, yes, you can definitely have use for this headphone jack here. It's loud enough. Next will be the backlight, where the 2000 nits live. If you crank up to 100, that's when you are at the 2000 nits. For indoors, I prefer to set it to about 20%. It's plenty of brightness. Lastly will be the shortcut, which is where you assign your F keys right here. So the F1 I have currently set to zebra, F2 focus assist, F3 all waveform, F4 audio meter, F5 marker matte. And then as you scroll, you have more. So you have the camera control. You have to buy the USB cable, which again, they don't make USB-C, so I'm not gonna even bother with this cable with this here. Then you have the image flip, which is self-explanatory. You can have auto, I think. Oh yes, there you go. It flips, beautiful. Okay, so it's automatic. So next we have the data range. This is related to your picture here. It's not data like, gigabytes, right? So I have it set to extended, which I find the most pleasant or accurate or correct level of gamma and, just the blacks in general. So you can actually have the limited, which comes default as limited. The full is gonna add, as you can see here, a little bit less contrast. It might look good for some situations, but for this setup right here, I have it set to extended. So between the limited and extended, what that does is to give me like literally 5%, a little bit more, less crushing on the black. So I leave it on the extended. And then restore factory, which is self-explanatory. I don't wanna do that. And upgrade, that's when you put your SD card right here with the .bin file that you downloaded from Godox. The current version is 0.0.64 HF, and then you compare which one is greater to see if you need an upgrade or not. And that's the end of the menu. And that's the end of my video. I hope you found the contents helpful. If you want to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, that would help me out a lot here. Plus, it tells the algorithms that this content is actually a good thing to watch. And if you have any questions, drop them down in the comment section. I love comments and I try to respond to every single one of them. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.